The second center we're going to talk about today is what's called a centroid, which is, I'm sure, a word you've never heard before. By definition, it's the point of intersection between the medians medians of a triangle. Now, there's a problem with that definition, and the problem is you don't know what a median is. So, next step, what's a median? And this isn't This isn't something that you could figure out from the name like we did yesterday with the perpendicular bisector. This is something I just have to give you. It is a segment Whoops, I got a little crazy. It's a segment connecting a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side of a triangle. For those of you that are visual learners, I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then we're going to dive right into it. So I'll just choose to use A. We can do any one of them, but I go from A to the midpoint of the opposite side. So if we call that M, actually, you know what? Let's make it look a little cleaner here. Let's switch to a segment, and we'll make it all fancy-pansies. Okay, beautiful. Any questions on the definitions? Okay, so we're going to do the median first, and then once we have the median under control, we're going to come back to the centroid. Because just like we did with the circumcenter we talked about perpendicular bisectors, and then we expounded on that to get the circumcenter. Here we're going to talk about medians and then eventually get the centroid. Okay, so the question I have for you then is, how would I find the equation, assuming that I have the points that I need, how would I find the equation of the green line? So let's use the KISS method. What are the two things I need again for the equation of a line? Slope and?
The x and y points.
Good. Point and a slope. Now the median is different because I actually have 2 points to choose from. I can use A or I can use M. And the slope is a little bit different too. There's no perpendiculars here, it's just a straight slope calculation. All right, so we're going to find the equation of that green line. Let's go to a new slide. I'm going to redraw a triangle here. And I'm going to give you some actual coordinates. Okay, so A is at 3, 4. B is at 7, negative 12. And C is at 2, 1. David.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the median from A, from B, or from C?
A.
A. Okay. All right. So first things first. I need to find M because I need the midpoint. I need the midpoint because I'm going to need that to calculate the slope. So M is located at 7 plus 2 over 2, comma, negative 12 plus 1 over 2, which puts M at 9 halves, comma, negative 11 halves. Okay, so that's the first part. Equation of a line, I need a point. Got it. Now, I could use A. We'll come back to that in a second. But now I need the slope. So the slope of AM is equal to 4 minus negative 11 halves over 3 minus 9 halves. All right, and I don't want to play around with those fractions, so I'm just going to pick up my calculator and do it on the calculator. 4 plus 11 halves divided by 3 minus 9 halves gives me a slope of negative 19 thirds. Okay. And what's going to be confusing as we talk about more and more of these centers is you're going to forget, like, do I take a perpendicular now or do I not take a, and you don't. You just use that slope. That's the slope of the green segment, AM. Now I put it together in the equation of a line. Putting it together into the equation of a line is where you can show some creativity. Do you want to use A or do you want to use M? I personally would use A because the numbers are nicer. Y minus 4 is equal to negative 19 thirds times the quantity X minus 3. However, some of you might prefer to convert this to slope-intercept form. Let's see. Negative 19 would be positive 19 plus 25? No, plus 23. There we go. And that's pretty important, so I'm going to put that in a rectangle so I can find it easily. And that green thing is the median in that triangle. Questions so far? Okay, good. The mechanics is something you need to know. What's new is the definition. What is a median? Well, there it is. There's an example for you. But being able to find it mechanically is something that should be second nature for you. And now we're talking about triangle centers. So how do we expound on this? Well, we take a look at the other medians. So I have a median from B. Whoa, that was a mistake. I have a median from B that goes to the midpoint at, we'll call this N. And I have a median from C we'll call that P. And sure enough, they meet in the center, which we'll call Q. The blue segment would have its own equation. The red segment would have its own equation. Any two of those segments put together will tell me where the centroid is, which is at Q. All right, questions about the process? Let me go back here, and I'm going to take all of this stuff and move it down a little bit, because like we did with circumcenter, I want to start talking about, or not talking about, but I want to leave some space for the properties of the centroid. There's more, but we're going to stop after those two. Strangely enough, this point right here is the center of gravity of that triangle. What does that mean? Well, if I cut that triangle out of plywood, for instance, I could balance it on my finger on the centroid. Okay. And there's some other properties that we'll talk about later, but for now, I just want you to be able to find that point. Okay, questions? Good. So here's... Go ahead.
Can you please go back to the properties
Sure.
of the centroid?
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep. One of the things we talked about yesterday with the circumcenter is that we don't need all three. You just need two. So I'm going to send you into your breakout rooms and you're going to do the following. You're going to finish this problem for me on the next slide. Leia, let me know when you're done, okay?
I'm finished.
Okay, beautiful. You're going to finish this problem for me. Now, what does it mean to finish the problem? You're going to choose either red or blue, find the equation of one of the other medians, and then tell me where the point Q is located. Okay? What I'm going to do is tell you the answer. There's where Q is located. So you're going to do the work to show me where Q is located. One thing you'll realize when we're doing triangle centers, the answer for me is a minimal part of the problem. If, for instance, this were a quiz problem, it would be worth about 10 to 12 points. One of those points would be the answer. It's all the other stuff that I'm looking for. Can you find a midpoint? Can you calculate a slope? Can you write an equation of a line? Can you solve a system of equations to find the answer? And you have to repeat that a couple times. Okay, anything not clear? When your group gets done with the problem and you have the answer that matches, come back to the main session so that I can check your work. If by the end of the period you don't get this done, it's okay. You will see on Schoology there is a Dropbox called Day 2 Notes. Sometime before you leave class today, you need to submit this problem. Okay, so let's talk about submitting. If you're taking notes on your iPad, that shouldn't be a difficult thing to do to submit a PDF. If you're working on paper, you can also submit easily. However, I would like you to scan your documents, not take a picture. It seems like a trivial argument, but for me grading, it's a lot easier to see a scanned document than it is to read a photo of a document. Okay? Is it safe to assume you all know how to scan using the notes function on your iPad? Answer me, please. No?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, if you don't, you open it. Okay, number one, I can teach you, but I'll give you a brief rundown, and if you still have trouble, I can help you. If you go under the notes function on your iPad, there is a choice for scanning document. And you literally hold it over. It's like taking a picture, but it creates a better image. It scans it, not just taking a picture of it. And then it creates a PDF that you can send wherever you need to go. Okay, so by the end of the period, come back to the main session, have me check your work, turn in your notes. Then you have Day 2 homework for Monday, which is more Centroid work. Okay? Questions? If you have trouble, come back to the main session. All right, we good? All right, here you go.